Welcome to Marveling at the MCU, a podcast that mixes geekdom with nostalgia. As a comic book geek and a film nerd rewatch the movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm Dave O'Hara and I'm the resident comic book geek.
My name is Ollie Lewington and I'm a film nerd.
Before we get started today, would you be willing to take a moment to rate and review the podcast in your favourite podcast app? Adding reviews, particularly on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, helps us reach more people and grow the podcast, and kind of want to keep doing that.
Today we're talking about Spider-Man Far From Home, which was first released in July 2019. It was directed by John Watts and written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers.
So, Ollie, Spider-Man Far From Home, thumbs up, thumbs down, or meh?
Meh. I think for me it's not an outstanding movie. I found the same as I did with Homecoming. I didn't think that I liked it, and when I watched it back again, I did like it.
Yep.
But it's definitely not good enough to be a thumbs up.
I was, when I was like, obviously we'd finished Endgame, I was like, okay, what's next? Spider-Man. Okay, Far From Home. Yeah. I was like that, and then I watched it again, and I'm gonna thumbs up it because I forgot how much I actually enjoyed watching this film. But I'm sure let's see when we've talked ourselves out of our respective scores what happens at the end.
We seem to have got quite consistent with this, though. We seem to be much more confident going in than we have been before on what our actual scores are.
Absolutely, and I don't know if that's going to change over the next few films because we're going to we're going to come through. I guess the words are a rocky patch potentially with some gems in there. So we'll see
a slump.
I'm going to still be irritatingly optimistic, but we'll see how far that goes.
I was going to say we'll see when that runs out.
Yeah, there may be some. I may have some issues with some things coming up, but we'll keep it light. We'll keep it light.
Spider-Man Far From Home is the 23rd film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's the final film of the MCU's third phase, although we all know it's really not. They even say multiverse in this film, and they use it as the central conceit for the first half of the movie. Anyway, it's also the first sequel other than Infinity War Endgame to use entirely the same creative team since Captain America Civil War.
People can correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was supposed to be the first multiverse film, but either COVID or something messed around with it, and that's why they kind of had to orphan it and tack it on to the end of phase 3 rather than start phase 4. So, like, I get it. You're absolutely right. Like, they talk about the multiverse and they talk about it in this. So, yeah, it could have quite happily been the start of phase 4. Yeah,
of course, because there's the 2-year gap, isn't there, between Far From Home and Black Widow, which is technically now the first film of the multiverse saga.
Yes, technically, yeah.
But yeah, that would make sense that if you've got a 2-year gap between the films coming out, you probably would want to kind of retcon Far From Home into being the end of the multiverse saga. Otherwise, it kind of gets stuck
on its own.
The film itself then was officially announced on the back of the trailer for Homecoming, which got people really, really excited. So I think Sony just turned around and kind of went, "Oh yeah, and we're making another one," just so they could get a bit of press, presumably. Now, the complicating factor, and something that really pissed Marvel off,
and understandably so,
was that Sony announced the release date for July 2019, 3 months after Endgame. But they announced it before Infinity War had come out, so that when Peter dusted at the end of Infinity War, it kind of gave away the fact that the characters would all come back in Endgame. And especially considering by the time Endgame was released, the marketing for Spider-Man had already started.
Yeah.
So Marvel were really not happy, but obviously because it was this deal that they developed with Sony that gave Sony the right to do basically what they wanted. So
Yeah.
they weren't in control of what they could and couldn't do and when they could release things. All that Marvel could control was how it fitted with the rest of the the MCU. Far From Home is it's also arguably the most global film since Age of Ultron. I guess you could kind of argue the definition of global since it's more sort of European, I suppose. But they do go to 6 different countries, and
Yeah.
principal photography happened in 5 different countries. And so it definitely gives it a bigger feel to Homecoming, and it gives it a great platform for Peter's internal debate around being the neighborhood hero versus a world saving, universe saving Avenger, which is kind of the the central debate of this whole film.
Yeah.
And then one random technical fact that I love when I discovered it in my research, and this is I fully admit full nerd mode.
This is full film
Uh,
nerd. Love it. Go for it. Indulge it. Lean into it.
so the director of photography on this film wanted to use the large format cameras that Marvel used on all of their recent releases. I think starting from Infinity War, it may have started in the few films before that, but definitely Infinity War, Ant-Man, Captain Marvel, Endgame, all of those were shot with big, large format cameras that produce this kind of incredible resolution. But Sony said that they wanted everything to be optimized for the standard HD resolution. So that's basically like TVs at home, unless you've got a big 4K TV, but
Yeah.
your standard HD TV. And then, pretty much exactly at the end of the shoot for this film, they signed a new deal with the IMAX Corporation to release their films in IMAX, which meant that the larger format camera that they wanted to use, the director of photography wanted to use, would have been so much better as a choice. And it would have matched better with the rest of the MCU and fitted IMAX and all that kind of stuff. And I totally get that that's just full nerd, but it made me chuckle.
Love it.
And I kind of felt like I had to throw it in just because, well, actually, I haven't gone full nerd for a while. So,
Well, I was
yeah.
gonna say because it makes me feel left out because I will go rambling about comic stuff and go off script about it. But then, yeah, you've been quite restrained with your nerdiness.
So, speaking of, then,
Speaking of comic
do you
notes,
want to go? Do you want to go full comic geek
yes, I do.
on this
I
film?
will. I mean, we were speaking obviously pre hitting the record button. There's not actually that many new characters in this one. I mean, Brad is a character. He's one of the many Spider-Man background people, but we don't need to really. He was like an American football player. We don't need to go into it deals with him. College football, sorry. So the big one, Quentin Beck. Earth 616, kind of Quentin Beck. Okay, so he first appeared as Quentin Beck, by the way. He wasn't Mysterio at this point, in Amazing Spider Man issue 2 in 1963. And he appeared in Amazing Spider Man issue 13 in 1964 as Mysterio. So
So, can I
he,
just clarify something before you
yep,
dive fully into this?
yes,
You just said Quentin Beck, Earth
yep,
616. So there's
yep,
obviously a discussion of the universe numbers in this, or there's a reference to universe numbers in the
yep,
film.
yep.
What is Earth 616 and how does it relate to other numbers in the
It does. So
comic verse?
every in the multiverse, every world, every reality has a number. so to speak. And because he says in the film he comes from Earth 833. Yeah,
I
833.
think that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I am. Because I know the note. Yeah, so he claims it comes from Earth 833, which is an actual universe in the comics. They do visit it. It does come in. It's ironically, it's where basically a British Spider-Man is from. It's like the Captain Britain Corps, and it gets destroyed. They have these like incursion things, monster thingies, whatever, incursion team, and they all fight it, and then in the end, his reality is destroyed, so he can't go. So like weirdly, yeah, it is, which is kind of what Beck says. 833, his reality is destroyed, so it weirdly does track. It's quite convenient that. But like technically, if you are a nerd like me, and when he immediately said, "I'm from Earth 616," or sorry, no, he refers to the universe they're in as Earth 616. You know he's lying, because Earth 616 is the comics. Is the prime comic universe is Earth is 616. The
Right.
Marvel MCU is Earth. Oh God, here we go. Here's a big number. 199999. That's the MCU. So it's actually, yeah, like I
Right.
said, it has an actual reality, and that is it. So you kind of know he's lying in that respect.
Okay. And so the universe numbers,
Yep.
is that basically just a way of being able to kind of endlessly play with the characters
Yes.
and not have them trampling on each other's canon?
Yeah, it's like whenever you do a what if and things like, because I mean on Disney there is the what ifs. What ifs are sometimes you want to have fun with the characters without messing up the entire kind of story landscape.
Yep.
Like I will, like they do it in DC as well. Like there's Superman Red Sun, which is what happens if Superman, rather than landing in Kansas, lands in Soviet Russia, and he's brought up as a communist and stuff like that. And so you got they DC do it as well. But yeah, Marvel do it again. Like I say, got Marvel Zombies where they have these little alternate realities. Basically, it's a way to kind of give them or categorize them all. And I believe it was a fan thing originally. People kept referring to the main Marvel universe as 616, and eventually they just adopted it. So
Right.
yeah, and like even like and they'll keep making jokes about it, because like in the like Agents of Shield TV show, the aircraft they flew around on was call sign 616, and there are lots of little little things they
Yeah.
drop into it. It's like even the X-Men 97 universe that has a number. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but they all the different genres and all different things technically are in the same Marvel family, so they all have their own little number.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
just a little thing, so it's not like super important, but it's also just a little nerd nugget.
Yeah, but I think it's something that we as film fans, if we are solely film fans, this is sort of the first time, in fact, I think it is the first time that we've heard any kind of reference to numbers. And so I think it's quite helpful to kind of just set that understanding of what they are.
I think we may have mentioned it in literally the opening chat, as in at the start of the podcast. I think we may have had a brief mention about it. But yeah, anyway, so like this is the
Yes, sorry, carry on.
no, that's fine. Like I say, it's a good segue. Yeah, so he first appears in 1963 as Quentin. He hasn't got his super villain kind of monkeyer and stuff at that point. But basically, he starts off as an accomplished special effects expert and stuntman who essentially gets bored with his career, frustrated with his lack of recognition from his work, downtrodden and all that stuff. He tried to become an actor, but was, very little success. And around this time in the kind of universe, Spidey was making headlines. So Spider-Man's agent, because he had an agent, which, side note, this agent was basically the TV producer who saw his first fight against Crusher Hogan, if you remember from the Sam Raimi ones, the boxing
Oh,
guy,
yeah.
and offered to break him into TV. And so he was his agent for a bit. He did eventually stop doing it after old John Jameson was making Spidey, on his little campaign to make him that menace Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Then later on, he comes back later in life, gets again duped by Mysterio because the whole film relation. But yeah, so he did have an agent. But anyway, this agent hired Beck, who was again an expert at his field, to come up with special effects for a TV appearance. Old Quentin insisted that the agent use fake props, but the promoter wanted like real danger to really sell it. So Beck did so, but it's like, I'm not going to take responsibility if it goes wrong, which Obviously it did, because it'd be a boring story if it didn't. But, Spider-Man's quick thinking saves the audience members or whatever being injured. No problem. Old Beck carries on, fed up with his career being a bit stagnant. And then he becomes inspired when one of his co-workers kind of jokingly suggests he uses his special effects skills to become a villain, a costume villain, and, kill Spider-Man, because it's the 1960s, so this is how people talk. He first teamed up with the Tinkerer, which we were introduced
I
to in the last
remember
film.
that character.
You remember him?
I understood that reference.
Yep, with Beck. Essentially, he's basically making his schemes look like it was carried out by alien invaders. It was almost like a data harvesting thing where he's nicking people's identities and money for that. But he made it look like it was alien invaders doing it with like lifelike alien costumes, a phony alien craft, all that kind of stuff, which was all ruined by Spider-Man, which, made old Beck vow to beat him one day, like, I'll get you next time, Gadget.
Next time, Gadget. I promise I'll get you next time.
Type thing. I mean, after this, though, so he's still not Mysterio, technically. He went back to Hollywood, back to his old job, but then one of the stunts went, like, horribly wrong and, like, horribly burnt an actor. So he was blacklisted from the industry. And that's when he kind of developed the kind of weaponized special effects that he'd use, like, in his villain career, supervillain career. Obviously, blaming Spider-Man for everything, decided to get revenge against him. So first, to do this, he arranged a meeting with his idol, a legendary special effects artist, Ray Bradhurst, I believe his name was, from the comics kind of thing. I don't think he's a real person, just And weirdly, I think this hilariously tracks with you being a film nerd, because he continued to use practical special effects, even though the major studios were favouring digital special effects in the comic universe, obviously. One effect used in this Italian horror film, basically Beck wanted to kind of recreate this effect he was doing. So Beck puts on his supervillain costume, goes down into the basement and discovers that this stunt guy was actually like a magic practitioner, and that the demonic creature in the film was a real demonic creature. So he was kind of cheating. So Beck basically slays and banishes the demon using his special effects wizardry, so to speak. Then in his head, he was like, well, I'm better than this guy. I'm now like the master of special effects. And then he took on the name Mysterio from this effects dude's last film. So it actually took a while, like I say, from the character being introduced to him actually getting his supervillain proper title, which seems to be a rarity in the kind of comics in these days and stuff like that. But he's been involved in Spider-Man's career for a very long time, and he's crossed into Daredevil's orbit and his rogue gallery a few times. Yeah, he's died, been resurrected, retired, come out of retirement, and he's actually one of the few 616 universe characters who crossed realities into the actual Ultimate Universe. Remember, I keep talking about the Ultimates. So he did actually send, like, I think, robots into the actual Ultimate Universe for, shenanigans and reasons. But yeah, and also, it must be addressed, his costume is hilariously ridiculous because it's from the 60s, and it is. They were very faithful to it in the film, which I love because it is ridiculous. I put on our little script some snapshots of the comic version of the costume with a big, massive goldfish bowl head, which, again, Spidey constantly takes the piss out of in the comics. He's always mocking his face, his helmet. So really pleased they kind of put it in. Also, it's interesting in the film how they do it, because if you are a Spider-Man fan and you see Mysterio in there, you're like, yeah, he's a baddie. He's a baddie. Quentin Beck, he's a baddie. But like, I think I was watching it with my other half, and obviously they were surprised that the twist was he was the baddie, because they don't know the name. So loved it. Really, really good. So that's Beck. I will jump in with some random other stuff now. So the elementals that are in this. We love it. So the elementals that are in this, I am genuinely going to jump around here. So we'll see how Ollie and Cutty have fun editing this. So the elementals aren't actually like a comic book equivalent. They're not a thing. They sound like they should be a thing, but they're not. They're kind of right. They're basically, they correspond to some of the Spider-Man's rogue gallery, because, Spidey has a lot of element-based baddies and like animal-based baddies. So you've got the wind one is Cyclone. The water element is Hydro Man. The lava is similar to Molten Man, and the earth one being Sandman, who you will remember from probably the Sam Raimi films. So you've got as I jump around my script because I'm like an idiot, left it at work, so I've got to use it off the computer. So just keeping that in mind, there are lots of like license plates in this film which have comic book references. Like Nick Fury's license plate when he's in Prague reads ASM 28965, and another plate later says 2865 SEP, which is referencing Amazing Spider-Man issue 28 from September 1965, which is the first appearance of Molten Man. So they've got a lot of things like that where
Nice
they
little
reference
Easter
the
eggs.
little random, like completely not relevant at all. And they've got loads of them. Like when they're in Berlin, his license plate is like MTU 83779, which is a reference to Marvel Team Up issue 83 from July 1979, which Fury and Parker team up in. When they're in London, one of the cars is TASM 1143, which is Amazing Spider-Man 143, where Cyclone makes his first appearance. Talos's license plate is HNM 62011, which is a reference to Hawkeye and Mockingbird issue 6 from 2011. And this issue is Nick Fury Skrull.
Oh, nice.
So there's lots of little references, like when after Mysterio does his does the water element attack in Venice, Flash reads an online report about a sailor named Morris Bench who was like allegedly exposed to an experimental underwater generator and got hydro powers, and that's in the 616 universe. Morris Bench is Hydro Man, whom the element's based on. So lots of lovely little things like that. You have, when May Parker's doing her fundraiser at the start, there's a poster promoting a boxer, Crusher Hogan, the guy I've referred to, the boxing from the comics. The old Peter taking his suitcase on vacation has the initials BFP on it, which is his Uncle Ben's full name, Benjamin Franklin Parker.
Yep, I worked that one out.
You worked that one out, yeah. His stealth suit...
It's the only one I worked.
It's the only one you got.
I worked out.
His cool black costume... So Spidey, I mean, if you watch Venom and stuff like that, you know there's a whole symbiote thing. Oh, in fact, from Spider-Man 3, and you get the black costume Spider-Man in that. When I saw the trailer, I was kind of, and you saw him in his like black stealthy suit, I was like, oh wow, are they doing black costume? No, they're not. It's basically inspired by the Spider-Man noir kind of comics, which if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, you'll kind of recognize. And also, I think they designed it because it's not designed by like Stark or anything like that. They made it so like with the flip up goggles, which is very not a Starky type thing to do. So a very different way of doing it, which is cool.
Yeah.
Although when he does his little, when he's in the ship towards the end and he's looking at all the Spider-Man suits on file, you get another little Easter eggs. You get the Iron Spider armor from the actual 616 comic, Superior Spider-Man suit, which is like a Doc Ock type thing, the advanced suit from Marvel's Spider-Man, Spider Armor Mark 1 and 2, and Spider-Man stealth suit from Secret Wars. So lots of little funky
I feel like so many of these Easter eggs are going to make our listeners go back and like spin through the movie again to be like, I want to see that.
They're the kind of Easter egg I love because you don't need to know them and you don't need to notice them. Like if you don't see them, it doesn't make any difference at all. And you could probably work out, like when he looks at the different Spider-Man costumes, like, oh, maybe they're actual ones. But it doesn't detract from your enjoyment by not knowing this stuff. And that's what I love. You don't need to shove it down your throat sometimes. It's just a nice little extra. Like when he does his when he's doing his selfie at the start and he's doing his weight swinging, that's from the Spider-Man computer game.
Yeah.
When Spidey's doing his kind of Peter tingle at the end, in when Spidey and Mysterio fight, he does that a lot. Same with Daredevil; they use their like radar sensors to foil him. You've got Peter's passport lists August the 10th as his birthday. Spider-Man's first appearance was Amazing Fantasy issue 15, released August the 10th. 1962.
Nice.
You even get some little random. And I didn't notice this the first time. Absolutely, just before the Hydro Man attacks, when Peter's purchasing the Black Dahlia necklace, Gyllenhaal is in character spying on Peter Parker in the street.
Really?
Yep, and some of his goons are around as well.
I have not noticed that in any way.
Gonna have to rewatch.
That's cool.
And one. It's very cool. I mean, one which I did notice in the film, which made me proper weirdly excited, is right at the end when Pete and MJ are swinging together through New York. As the movie kind of coming to a close, they pass a sign that reads, "We are so excited." And then the next one says, "To show you." And then the next one goes, "What come next?" And then the phrase kind of appears over 1, 2, 3 ? So, because this is the end of phase 3 into phase 4.
Right.
It's on the billboards at the back. It's very... When you watch it, it's very obvious.
Okay.
Yeah, but
it sounds a bit rubbish, that one, to be honest.
The
other one sounded really, really cool. That one,
I enjoyed it
so much.
I've got And like I was saying about with the elementals appear, and I said about the number plates have the various signs. One of the boats, a boat sign has ASM 212 during the water attack. Hydro Man made his debut in Amazing Spider-Man 212. You've got like a card bearing the license plate, 463 during the Earth one. The Earth villain, so Sandman, Flint Marko, or his actual birth name being William Baker, made his debut in Amazing Spider-Man 4, 1963. And you got similar during the Fire Element attack with Molten Man, who's Mark Raxton doing his debut, and during the final kind of elemental incorporating the Voltron attack, Cyclones reference to him as well. So very, very cool little random things. And the last one I'll go with, because this is proper jumped all over the place, but if I don't say it now, I genuinely will forget when we come to the actual film review. The guy playing Dimitri, Newman Asa, who we'll get to in the actual breakdown, so he portrays like a silent agent working for Fury called Dimitri, who seems very skilled at blending in by, he's done different roles, keeping an eye on Parker in plain sight, like, driving the tour bus. Dimitri is also the name of a Spider-Man villain called Chameleon. Dimitri, and I can't pronounce his surname, it's ridiculous, but he's known for his ability to adapt to different identities. So basically it's a kind of, it may be, it may not be, it doesn't matter if it's not, because he's not a villain that's worth, they're not going to make a film out of him, but it's a nice little like he could be the MCU version of that villain, just like, one of those little, like I say, random Easter egg type things that don't mean anything and don't detract at all from the actual film, but are in there anyway for massive nerds like me. And I think that's because, like I said, everyone else has pretty much been in it before, haven't they?
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else new. Cool. So I guess after that inane ramble is done, sorry, Cutty, sorry. I guess let's dive into Act 1.
So we open with a really short kind of pre-logo scene. Like, you want to say pre-credit scene, but there isn't credits.
Credits, exactly.
So, like, I'm treating the Marvel logo as the credits from here on out. So we have a little pre-credit scene of Fury and Agent Hill, played by Samuel L. Jackson and Kobe Smulders again, chasing reports of weird goings on, and there's a little bit of friction there. It sort of feels like Fury is desperately trying to find some meaning in the world or something along those lines, because Agent Hill is kind of like, we don't have to investigate every single thing that happens. Sort of like I get a little bit of the same vibe as we had with Okoye in Endgame, saying to Black Widow, like, we deal with it by not dealing with it, kind of thing. Until Fury points out that it was a cyclone with a face, which does seem relevant. And then something happens, a cyclone starts happening, and this mysterious man, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, pops up and says, "You don't want any part of this," or something, and blasts it.
Yep.
And then we just cut away from it.
And interestingly, you could instantly be aware that something's off with Fury and Hill, because she calls him Nick.
Oh, I hadn't picked up on that, but of course.
There are so many references to the fact that it's not Fury.
Yeah.
And when you watch it again, you can pick up on... and even there's evidence that Talos has been impersonating him a few times randomly. Yeah, which is over the kind of... like when he has Diagonal Toast, or doesn't have Diagonal Toast and stuff like that in one of the previous ones. But like I say, so she calls him Nick. So, and there are more, but we'll get to them when we see him again. But it's really well done. It's really well done.
Yeah,
and especially when you watch it knowing who he is, it's really well done.
So then we get the Marvel logo with "I Will Always Love You" playing over the top. Not the greatest version of "I Will Always Love You." I mean, I say not the greatest because there is only one version.
But it was played by high school kids, technically.
Yeah.
Because wasn't it supposed to be? Wasn't it like a homemade film type memorial? Wasn't
Yes.
So it's like a school project. Yeah.
So it's exactly the same as Homecoming started with a film by Peter Parker of his kind of travels to Berlin. This starts with another homemade film that's memorializing Tony and Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff. And then it kind of takes us into the school TV broadcast that gives us a kind of a quick recap
Yep.
of the blip. And it also helpfully lets us know it's the last day of school.
Yep.
One of the hosts is obviously Betty, who's played by Angourie Rice. And I did not write down the name of the other actor, and I feel really bad about it now. There's also a deleted scene of this, of the characters blipping the moment that they get dusted and then the moment they reappear. But to be honest, the acting in it is so bad that I am not surprised they cut it.
They cut it.
It's genuinely atrocious. Anyway, Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland again, sort of jumps into this film in a great... It's a lovely intro. I really like the way they did it, because you immediately get the excitement that he has and who he is as a character. You immediately get the relationship between him and Ned, played
Yep.
by Jacob Batalon again, and you immediately get their relationship with MJ, because you get Peter's side of it, but then you also get this kind of very deadpan, mildly confused MJ, played by Zendaya, sort of introducing herself as well. And those three characters, you just get that so much information from that first scene, where if you haven't seen the previous Spider-Man film, you understand who he is,
Yeah,
and who they all are.
Absolutely sets the scene, and I do love that, like, rolling back a little bit, because obviously they're updating about the blip. I love the detail, because it's not like a film where, like, well, a film ends and that's it, job done. They actually have to explore some of the practicalities of what would happen if you disappeared
Yes.
and then reappeared 5 years later. Like, you haven't aged 5 years in the, so you've got, like I say, the younger brother being older than them and things like that, and the whole... And they do it in some of the TV series. They go into it a bit more, like with old Captain America. Can't remember the name of the damn title now. With Bucky and Falcon. In fact, Winter Soldier and Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's it.
Yeah.
And the whole, when they really deep dive into things like how, like say they blip and then the house is vacant, someone else moves in and they blip back again into it and things like that.
And Aunt May talks about that as well.
Yeah, she briefly mentioned it, doesn't it? And it's really, I love those kind of... I love the fact that they have to explain it, and it kind of makes you really think about it. And they really do go into details in some of the future films about the trauma and the practicalities behind it. But I just randomly like that. Yeah.
I also love the way that, because this is a sequel to Homecoming, basically all of the important characters blipped. That, like, it doesn't cause problems with ages and everything else. It's like, it's incredibly convenient, but in a way that kind of makes you chuckle. There's also the amazing line of Ned saying Europeans love Americans.
Yes.
and like the two levels to the reaction of, like, Peter Parker genuinely seeming like he's a bit more worldly than Ned after everything he's been through, and so it's a genuine kind of, I'm not sure that's right, but then the sort of other part of that, of Tom Holland being British and recognizing that it is not necessarily the case that Europeans love Americans. For the record, for our American listeners, we like Americans. And not just because one of our best friends is married to an American, or maybe just because of that, but we, don't hate us.
No, we love it.
So then we skip from the classroom to a charity ball for homeless people from the blip. hosted and organized by Aunt May, with like a celebrity visit from Spider-Man, who is hopelessly awkward. It's
Yep.
very clear that he's an awkward teenager who doesn't know how to do public speaking.
Which is brilliant and perfect, yeah.
We get Happy Hogan, played by Jon Favreau, again, arriving with a giant check for the charity, and he then has a bit of a flirt with Aunt May, who's played by Marissa Tomei, again, I should say. And
I love
it's this wonderful thing where, like, my reaction was sort of the same of Peter's, which was like,
what just happened?
It's absolutely brilliant. And then Peter has his moment of like, I don't want to talk to Nick Fury.
You do not ghost Nick Fury.
And then the public appearance that Peter runs away from Fury into the public appearance then triggers a panic attack because of all of the questions and the flashing lights and the memories of Tony and everything else. And he just has to leg it straight away. And I just, there is so much that goes on in these early scenes that lays out who the characters are, what their relationships are. And it's just, for all that I don't love the film overall, this kind of first half an hour of the film is so good in setting things up going forward. And interestingly, we talked back in Ant-Man and the Wasp, we talked a little bit about clunky exposition and that kind of thing. And the exposition that happens in this first hour is so well handled. It's like, some of it is a little bit clunky, but it's clunky in an authentic way, because a lot of it is kind of dumped on the high school TV. And so, of course, they're going to be awkward in how they talk about it, but it's also sort of natural that they would be talking about it. I just love this opening half hour of the film. I think it's brilliantly done.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is really good. I mean, then after we've done his kind of, like I say, panic attack, and he gets back home and he starts packing for his trip like a teenage boy, ghosting Fury the entire time, which is hilarious, sending him to voicemail. We get that brilliant, we learn about the Peter tingle, so the Spidey sense, obviously.
Please do not start calling it my Peter tingle.
And I love they're taking the piss out of it, but also that they acknowledge that it's a thing. But still, again, it's the Peter tingle, not the Spidey sense. Love it. And, you know, him quite rightly saying when he's a vacation, he doesn't want to be Spider-Man. And then we get these super awkward, like these kind of scenes make me cringe so much. Like the basic from on the plane, when we get, you know, we run into Flash, you know, Tony, played by Tony Revolori, I think. Revolori, there you go. And MJ immediately puts him in his place for saying he blipped, he's now 21. Love it. And then Brad, the love rival, played by Remy Hill, who is the one character who's Remy He, sorry, not Hill.
H-I-I.
Yeah, misreading that. Well done, me.
It's really, I should have used a different font in our script because it's so hard to read.
But, you know, essentially Peter's trying to engineer his, you know, to sit next to MJ, and it goes horribly wrong, with Peter ending up next to Mr. Harrington, played by Martin Starr, and Ned ending up next to Betty. So it's like everyone looks unhappy with the situation. Yeah. But yeah, it's proper. Yeah. These kind of these scenes are proper cringeworthy and awkward for me. So they're perfectly done, because they
are. Yeah.
And like I say, the flight continues with like Peter being awkward with MJ, Brad essentially conducting the first part of Peter's plan, and then Ned and Betty getting together, which is a randomly hilariously awesome bit. Yeah. Again, the funny things with the Peter getting caught in customs with his spider suit packed, and like, you know, no bananas.
Yes. Yeah.
No, really good, really well done. And we get like, I mean, it's not the kind of montage I like, but we get a little montage of Venice. Them arriving at the hotel, you know, exploring the city, both of the teachers being like, rubbish and weird. With Mr. Dell by JB Smoove being the other teacher, again from the first film. He was the first film? They both
I
were,
don't think he
weren't they?
was in the first
Actually,
film. I don't think Mr. Dell was.
No,
Mr. Harrington obviously was.
Harrington was
but,
definitely there. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think Mr. Dell was.
But yeah, but Peter buys the necklace like he planned, and you have to rewatch it now to see if Quentin Beck's in the background.
Yes. Yeah.
And MJ learning the anti-aloha bow.
Yes, which I've never heard of as a word.
Nope,
But
never heard of it. But then never been invented. So there we go.
I trust them.
Yes, I assume they've done their research and it's actually a thing.
Yeah, because it would be so weird if they just made it
there'll
up.
be some cultural thing. They must have found it. There must be a real thing because you can't just not. You can't do that. But then we get a water monster. So Hydro Man kind of rocks up, or the elemental, which is they did give him a name, which Kevin Feige confirmed were the actual names of them, but I can't remember what it is now. I'll get that later, maybe. But
I just because of my nerdist
go on.
needs, I just looked up what bow means.
Oh, did you? Go on.
And it means, literally translated from Italian, I don't know. So it's sort of like it is a very teenage word. It's basically them just going, dunno. Dunno.
The way I when I was watching it immediately made me think of Kree from, if you're a Stargate fan.
I am not.
Which you are not. There you go. It'd be like every the baddies would all be like Jafar, Kree no gold and stuff like that. Kree would come up a lot, and it basically takes until season like 6 or 7, where like the main character goes, look, I gotta ask, what the hell does Kree mean? Because they say it a lot in loads of different contexts. And then the guy explains it like, oh, it actually means a lot of things depending on that. It means hello, stand here, attention, all that kind of different things. And like when she said it about bow, I was like, oh yeah, it's that kind of word where you can use it in many different situations. But as you're not a Stargate fan, this is entirely irrelevant. So we'll just move right on.
Yes, we are at the water monster. I love this sequence, and I love the effect of this sequence in particular. They are really impressive, particularly
it's really well done.
How difficult water is to do.
Yeah, because we've said that before. It's a sign of good CGI when the water looks good.
Yes, yeah, completely. Only spoiled slightly by the weird bubblehead man.
Hey, Mysterio is awesome.
And he just does look a bit stupid, but I love how Peter helps in this fight. They lay it out really cleverly to keep the illusion of what's going on. That obviously we don't know it's an illusion at this point, but because he doesn't have his suit, Peter isn't properly doing things to fight the monster, and also because his webs do literally nothing against water.
Like say, it's an illusion. But at the point, you could also be believed that it's just going into water, so it's not doing anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's great, the fact that Peter basically just helps to get people out of the way, and then helps to sort of stop bits of the city collapsing or falling on people or everything else. And there's the brilliant slapstick moment of him with the bell and just hitting his head twice.
Multiple times, yes.
And I don't know what it is about people being hit by or hitting bells and hearing the like chime and stuff. Like, it's just funny. It's never not funny.
Exactly. And occasionally, like in Spider-Man 3, it's useful because, it's what did the Sonics to get Venom off. But yeah. Yeah. So like I say, this all gets kind of, the mysterious flying Doctor Strange-esque type person fights it, beats it. And we end up kind of back at the hotel with Peter doing his usual, oh yeah, I was running as well. Yeah, checking in with May, and Flash gives him a name of Mysterio. Or was it Flash? No, it was Flash, I think.
Well, they sort of see the name on the screen, and then they all kind of say, well, hold on, well, Mysterio just means mystery in Italian, and it just sort of ends up with
that's the one. And also we get the little kind of sequence with, because Flash loves Spider-Man. And, then immediately sees Peter and goes, what's up, dickwad, or whatever it is, he's like, but he's a massive Spider-Man fan, which is hilarious. Yeah, and then we're so back at the hotel. Then Peter basically refusing to do anything about the water monster, with Fury turning up to encourage him to help. And
Yes,
and
encourage in inverted commas.
Yeah, to help with Fury, like I say, explaining how he's struggling for info post blip.
Yes,
and this is where we get basically a lot of exposition here with essentially lots of same attacks happening. It kind of outlays the story. We get a bit of briefing,
and this is also the moment where he tranquilizes Ned as he's chatting away in the room, which is also another just great moment of. It's not quite slapstick, but it's
not quite
just
slapstick,
hilarious, and
it leads to it because obviously everyone keeps interrupting him, and Fury's like, one more person comes through that door, kind of thing, and which prompts him, to obviously go somewhere else. And this is when we see, he gets he gets his glasses for the next Tony Stark, and we meet Dimitri, who I said earlier, Newman, Akar, yeah. And Beck, again, Quentin Beck, who claims he's from Earth 833, which I obviously mentioned about in the comic kind of backstory. And this is also when we get our first in-universe mention of the multiverse, and Peter nerds out brilliantly about it.
He knows tons of stuff about it and gets very excited in a very kind of high school geek kind of way. Yeah. And I love the way he basically knows more about it than anybody in the room, probably including Beck, who's just sort of made this up.
Because he's making it up, isn't he?
And he turns around and says, never apologize for being the smartest guy in the room, and Hill sort of takes offense.
Also, this is again one of those subtle things that Fury isn't Fury, because when he says about the aliens and they're from, he references Earth as in it's not from your Earth rather than our Earth. So again, because he's an alien, Talos is alien, so he's not on our Earth. So it's just just one of those little, when you watch it again, it's one of those little subtle references that it's not Fury. And also, Nick Fury being the most paranoid person in the world, very readily accepts the alien thing, because again, Talos from Alien, he's from space. This is quite reasonable to him, probably. So because he's not a super spy. Yeah, so one of those little things, which again, when you watch it back with hindsight, you can pick up on more, which I love, really well done. But either way, we basically get the outline of the kind of plan. Look, all we think is the plan at this point, with Beck destroying all of them but fire, which will be in Prague. Peter's like, no, I ain't doing anything about this. Turns it down. I'm here for on holiday. You don't need me to do this. And makes the point, isn't he, about Spider-Man can't rock up with his glass. Everyone will put two and two. Or at this point? Yeah. Two together. I can't do it. Which is, again, completely valid, fair point. He already pushed the boat out with Washington in the first film. So, yeah, fair enough. But then you get back at next point, it turns out the trip has magically been rerouted to Prague on a posh bus with a nice driver.
Yes. And that is a very Fury move.
Yeah.
So it maintains the illusion on that side of it as well.
Yeah, it completely maintains it. But then we get they start kind of driving through, Austria, and this is where Peter tries the glasses on, which is where we're introduced to Edith. Even dead, I'm the hero, who's voiced by Dawn Michelle King. Who isn't she the producer of the film?
Is she?
I'm sure I read somewhere that she's like the producer or something like that. She's not just a voice actress. I'm pretty sure she has an actual role in the film.
Well, I am now going to have to...
As Ollie dives onto Google while I carry on.
No, not true.
Not true?
She's definitely not a producer, anyway.
I'll find it in a second. I'm sure there's some... She is some reference to something. I'm going to try and dig that in a second. It's one of my trivia things, but I don't know how valid it is. But either way, we get the explanation of, explains what she's capable of, which is, like you say, no way and exposition plot point for later. And then we get a bit more comedy, where we get the rest stop with Peter gets his new costume by the seamstress played by Tony Garton, and he gets his new Night Monkey stealth suit, but gets caught with his trousers, not pants, trousers off in a compromising situation by
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
which like then devolves into what starts as a funny thing with him, but then him actually calling on a drone strike
Yes.
to Brad, necessitating shenanigans to stop it. And with him like losing the glasses to Flash, stuff like that, him accidentally knocking out Flash, which again is a reference to they had like a boxing match and he like basically slaps him in the comics and knocks him out because it's Spider-Man and he does it completely by accident and he has to kind of like bluff it away that it wasn't him, that something else happened. But he stops it, it all ends, and they end their journey at this super posh hotel in Prague where Peter basically gets to sneak off to another briefing to go over the finer points of the plan because the Czech authorities won't evacuate the city. Again, understandable.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, you would have thought at this point that maybe
But
they would evacuate the city because everyone knows about crazy stuff that happens in the world, and after the blip and everything else, if the guy who used to be the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. says, I strongly recommend you evacuate your city, maybe you would expect them to do it.
But I guess at this point, S.H.I.E.L.D's kind of gone, so to speak, isn't it? Because it's 5 years. In fact, it's been longer than that. Yeah.
People would still know. Like, it's not
And also, it's not
like
America.
a request to get rid of the. Like,
I don't think S.H.I.E.L.D's a global
it's
thing
not just
either.
a random person saying you should evacuate your city, is it?
No. But again, also, it's an agent or whatever from a completely different country, and I could understand them not doing it. It would kind of we'll take it
I
under
can
advisement.
understand them. I just sort of feel like maybe they should have given it a little bit.
I mean, hindsight is
more
obviously a wonderful thing. Sorry, I'm looking at things while.
Yeah, we're both still desperately trying to find out who Dawn Michelle King is.
First assistant editor.
Yep.
So she was the first assistant editor on both Far From Home and Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Cool.
There you go.
Excellent. So I'm guessing that what happened there is while they were editing, she provided a temp track for the voice of Edith, which frequently happens with those kind of things. And they would have done it with Jarvis and with Friday, where you haven't got the actor in to record the dialogue yet, partially because obviously they use them for exposition, Jarvis in particular. And so they never brought in Paul Bettany until right at the very end of the process. So what you would have is
someone else doing his lines.
Random person on the crew just records the lines so that they've got the timing for the visual effect and for the film edit itself. And so I guess she recorded the temp track, and then the director was like, actually, you sound quite good.
I'm sure also, I think one of their initial ideas, possibly early storyboarding, was to have the voice be Robert Downey Jr. But then they no, that takes away from because it's very Starky arrogance, to record his own voice is the thing. But also they were like, no, that lessens the death.
Yes.
And, kind of thing. So they didn't go with it. So it could be that maybe they did plan, like you say, they did her and then they thought, no, we can't use our Robert. It would again lessen it, and they would keep that one. It sounds awesome. But yeah, either way, there you go, random one.
There we go.
At the end.
We'll settle back into Prague, and so they won't evacuate the city, and Fury kind of takes Peter to task, doesn't he, about misusing Edith, and he's very harsh with Peter, I think. And then we get this lovely scene of Mysterio or Quentin Beck chilling with Peter on top of the building, and they just have this really nice conversation where Peter sort of feels like he can talk to him and explain the difficulty that he's having, the fact that actually he just wants to be a kid. And again, it's another one of these things where, so I'm the same as Heidi. I had no idea who Mysterio was as a character. So I fully bought into him as being a nice guy. And it's one of the great things about their choice of casting, because you don't really expect Jake Gyllenhaal to be
to be a baddie.
playing a baddie. So it works really nicely. And I do feel like there's something at least a little bit genuine in this scene. But obviously, there is also Beck laying the groundwork of saying basically, yeah, no, like, I understand it's, maybe you should just be a teenager
Be a
kind of
teenager.
thing.
Give
And
me the super tech.
yes.
I mean, also during this scene, interestingly, like again, when you watch it with hindsight, he's not there. Like he doesn't physically interact with Peter, and doesn't properly look directly at him because it's an illusion. It's obviously an illusion track because he flies up, so it's an illusion track, and he's acting. So again, it's really like you watch it the first time, you could assume he's there, but when you watch it back, knowing that he's technically not there, he's somewhere else recording it. Great, really well done.
Yeah, really well done. And this is the moment where we get to the essence of the debate in the film, which is basically that old Spider-Man trope of with great power comes great responsibility, of Peter saying, I have a responsibility to be Spider-Man, but I don't really want to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it makes him almost the polar opposite of Tony at this point, because Tony could not stop being Iron Man. He was addicted to being Iron Man. And at this point, Peter is kind of saying, I like being Spider-Man, but sometimes I don't want to be him. I want some time off.
Yeah, which is fair enough. He's a teenager.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like, and the kind of part of the conversation comes out about how he wants to keep his friends safe as well. So they kind of come up with an idea, and basically they get opera tickets. And obviously, all the teenagers have exactly the reaction you expect. For there's a big outdoor party carnival thing, or we can go watch a 4-hour opera. We then get the kind of cute MJ and Peter moment where they're kind of like want to sit together and go in on a pair. The very awkward teenage romance thing, which again is very cringeworthy for me in these kind of films, but super well done because
I love how awkward these two are in all of their interactions, and
as in it's very realistic because that's how super awkward you are.
And you don't know whether or not the other person likes you, and you're like, I really like them, but are they just being?
Are they just
friendly?
Are they just being nice?
Or,
are they?
But it's significant that MJ is the one who asks Peter to sit with her.
Yep.
That it's not the other way around. And that's what really, I mean, we know that MJ and Peter are going to end up together, but it's a significant part of that relationship where you're like, yeah, Peter, you're missing the signals. But they're both missing the signals.
I love it. Like, it's super awkward to watch and cringy, but again, it's all spot on. And I remember being like that when, so, well, no, except I was completely oblivious to anything, like completely. So I don't know what it's like, if that makes.
I was semi-oblivious.
Yeah. I got mocked so many times by Steve for not
occasionally,
noticing.
Occasionally I managed it.
Yeah, no, I like the amount of times I was completely mocked by Steve, who is going to listen to this and laugh at me for it and remind me. Yeah, for just
Steve,
missing everything.
Please tell us stories in the chat.
Yeah, no. I mean, he will. Like, he 100% will. And I know you're not going to edit this bit out.
No, of course I'm not.
Damn it. Anyway, so
it will be a good test of whether or not he does actually listen, or if he just says to us, I listen every single week.
Yeah, I listened to the whole 2 hours of it. He will. We'll find out. Yeah. So anyway, we're in the main square in Prague.
Do you feel like this episode has gone off the rails at all?
A little bit. I love it.
Oh, we're going all over the place. It's great. Yes.
That's right. Anyway, we've done Endgame.
We don't have to be good at this anymore.
We've done it. We've peaked. But no, like I say, this is cool stuff happening. There is a cool stuff happening. We're in.
Yeah,
it's a very Spider-Man-y thing. The main group of kids have been sidelined. Obviously, they all like Ned and Betty kind of sneak off. Ned knowing what's going on, but at the same time can't think of a reason not to, and they're all kind of like the standard thing. You know what's going to happen. You know this is coming. You know they conveniently get on the Ferris wheel, and you think, right, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
When the old fire monster kind of arrives and starts doing his thing, so the fight commences. We get Spider-Man and Night Monkey, as Ned calls him, because Betty's like, is that Spider-Man? He's like, no, he's wearing black. He must be Night Monkey. Love it.
Yeah.
And like I say, lots of funky Spider-Man fights, very cool effects. Again, it's an illusion; it's not really there, which is one of those things. How even though there's a big fire monster, nothing seems to be reacting to the heat. So really well done, but you don't really notice in the thick of things. And like Peter,
stuff does.
I mean, stuff does explode, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't react to it, and which is why it's really well done. I love it.
But like the carousel melts, and I don't think the carousel's an illusion because we see people.
No, the carousel's real, but obviously the damage. I mean, like he's a master of special effects, which also weirdly is why he's a bad guy in the comics. He really is. You take the piss out of him, but in a film, he's pretty damn spot on because he's all about special effects and mystical and like illusions, which which is why while I never thought that Mysterio would be a main baddie, he's such a good choice in this for it. Because I think in the original Raimi ones, he was going to be included, but as the Bruce Campbell cameo,
right?
Because obviously he cameos in all of Raimi's films and stuff like that. But they were going to use like a Z level baddie to cameo as, and Mysterio was one of the options for it, which would have been hilarious. But yeah, either way, getting sidetracked. Beck sets up the sacrifice where he powers himself out, flies directly into the monster, boom, but luckily survives. And like I say, really well done. Spidey rescues kind of Ned and that lot, and they have that again awkward teenage moment with,
I would totally kiss you, but I think I just threw up in my mouth a little.
I might have a mint.
Perfect. Yeah. Fury then, so after his kind of Fury, basically, and again, another weird kind of hint that it's a little less subtle that it's not Fury, because Fury's actually more supportive of Peter than Talos is being. Talos is being a little bit harsh.
Oh, he get very harsh.
Like proper harsh kind of thing. But he basically wants Beck to join the team and kind of tells he needs to step up, and that, gives him that great confidence boost of maybe Stark was wrong.
Yes.
Which really helps, but weirdly falls into Beck's plan. So
it does, and it's interesting because Fury is super harsh with Peter, but we've never seen Fury interact with Peter. So there's something both surprising and not surprising. About it. It feels harsh from Fury, but
you could also be quite, as he said earlier, he's come back from the blip. He doesn't know anything. He's out of it, and so he's probably a bit grumpy the entire time. So
exactly. Yeah.
But now we get to the bit where so Beck's taking Peter for the drink, and he's like, "But I'm not 21," even though you don't have to be 21 in. I think he's still too young to drink, but is he 16?
I think he's maybe he would be 17 because I think he's 16 in the first one, isn't he?
Yeah, that's about right.
So he would be 17 now.
I think so. In the bar, there's lots of subtle hints to handing over glasses in the background and stuff like that. Lots of little subtle, like random little like glasses handing over and stuff like that.
Like Darren Brown. Style.
Yeah, like lots of little subtle things, which is again they were part of the illusion. So it's almost like, because obviously we find out in a second this is all an illusion. It's all to try and push Peter into giving the glasses over.
I feel like I've really let my film nerd self down.
Have you?
By missing so much of what's happening in the background of this film. And possibly also I've let myself down with not doing enough research.
Well, it's just
I genuinely need to go and watch this movie again.
It's why I genuinely like when I was watching it through again, I remembered how much I loved it. Like I because I do really enjoy this film. Like I wasn't looking forward to watching it again, but like of all the three Spider-Man films, I did. No, I think I always rated this one the second. My favorite is the next one, but this one I don't think I rated as highly as I should have, kind of thing in my head. And then I'm watching it, and I was like, no, I really enjoyed this. But either way, we're in the bar scene right now, and then we get the bit of the heart to heart, and the big reveal happens because he hands over Edith to Beck because from his point of view, completely understandable. If there's an out here, this guy is perfect to be the next Tony Stark. It takes the burden off his shoulders. He's been beaten down by it. He doesn't feel like he's responsible, and he's off. And then the reveal happens, which is a surprise to anyone but any comic book fan. But I love it.
It's great.
What did you think of it? Because
I loved it. It was a genuine surprise to me. Yeah, I'm trying to take myself back to 2019 now, which is obviously not as far away as some of the earlier films.
Yes.
But I do know it was a genuine surprise. I think there was part of me that was disappointed. I was
he was a baddie.
Want him to be a bad guy. I really like him. He seems cool, and I think Peter's choice to see him as the next Tony Stark is entirely believable, because I think
totally
in my mind I was seeing him as not necessarily the next Tony Stark, but the next long-running good guy.
Yeah.
Now that we'd lost Black Widow and Captain America and Tony Stark,
I genuinely love that was your reaction as well.
I was slightly disappointed in the reveal, and to be honest, from this point on is what brings the movie down from...
Are you that gutted that Jake Gyllenhaal's a baddie that it sells the rest of the film for you?
No. Only slightly. I just don't like the execution of the rest of the film from this point.
Yeah.
I think up to now it's been a really, really good film, and I just don't like the way it's executed going forward. And I think for me that starts with this revelation scene, with the sort of weird, it's an illusion but part of it's not an illusion, and there's the group of people. I do like the way that they lay out and they bring in characters from previous films.
Yes.
And so you can see why they would be so anti-Tony Stark and what's important to them in the grand scheme of things.
And the bath thing, when that was first revealed in that kind of film, there was a genuine fan theory that Mysterio was behind it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was an actual it was a fan thing that, maybe that sounds like something Beck would do, kind of thing. So that was a really nice the fact that they essentially confirmed it was brilliant.
Yeah, I like the fact that obviously they've slotted Beck in to the background of a bit of a previous film, but actually the other characters that they single out, we have seen in other films. So I like the way that they brought those characters in. He just turns into a bit of a stereotypical ranting bad guy. And when there's been such beautiful subtlety through the film up to this point, it feels like it's kind of wham, no more subtlety. He's just a giant stereotype of a bad guy dickhead.
It's very Mysterio, is what I'll say.
Which is fair enough.
Yeah, okay, which is great. But yeah, so after the that kind of the big reveal of this, the big twist, it takes us into the second half of the movie, because like from our point of view as well, he's defeated all the elementals. But now, like I say, second half of the movie, where Ned tells us, the audience that the trip's been cancelled. Peter, awkwardly desperate, I guess, kind of thing, asks MJ out, as in, out of the hotel. In that, again, awkwardly teenage type thing.
Like, I just want to go outside.
Look, I'm not ready for this trip to be over yet, and I kind of want to do something fun that's not on the itinerary or planned or with Mr. Harrington.
Yes.
Yes, like you want to go?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, and then we get that horrible, as in like just flashing back, that horrible feeling of them, like I say, making slightly awkward conversation, almost brushing hands together,
Yeah,
but kind of pulling each other's hand back and stuff like that. And he like starts trying to build up to say that he likes her, and she immediately ruins it by going, "You're just Spider Man,"
yeah,
and he's like, what? Yeah. Even though obviously we find out later that no, she does like him, but she
yes,
panicked, kind of thing,
yes.
and
Well, no, she didn't
or
panic at
she
this
didn't
point,
panic,
did
but
she? Like, she thinks genuinely, she thinks that's why
yeah,
that's what he was about to tell
he was
her,
about to say she didn't think that he
and
was gonna.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's so in character for MJ that she
Or just
will
blurt it
just
out.
like that she has worked it out when no one else has worked it out, because she is paying attention to things, and all the way along through all of the first film and the first half of this film,
Yeah,
you see that she is noticing things and thinking things that no one else is thinking.
yeah.
And
She's picking up on
so
things, isn't she?
she's worked it out when no one else has been clever enough to work it out. And there is obviously that thing from an audience point of view where, like, how has no one else worked it out yet? It
Yeah,
just
because Peter's
seems
really rubbish.
stupid.
It's like
But
really rubbish.
they sell it by the way that MJ reacts and everything else. And then yeah, there's this awkward bit where Peter's like, "Oh, so the only reason you've been watching me is because you think I'm Spider-Man," and she has that like,
Yes, yeah.
when you can see in her eyes that that's not the case.
Yes. But then they kind of we get the reveal. Well, not the reveal. They find out that the part of the drone kind of thing, and it kind of clicks to Spider-Man that, oh dear, I made a mistake, because they
Yes.
work out that it wasn't real. And then by pressing the thing, and you see like it replays a bit of the fight with Beck flying around and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it's
you
like,
get the projector doing
yeah.
its projection, and they're like, "Oh no."
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have given him the glasses. Cut to an abandoned theater with Beck rehearsing his new attack using the Edith drones to add and add to their own stuff to create a city kind of scale attack, and him walking around with a kind of like motion capture suit, which I love.
Yes.
Also, I understand that there was many scenes where they wanted him in something different, but he loved wearing the costume, so he would wear it every single possible time he could, or some variation of it, because he just genuinely loved wearing it and walking around in it. I was like, brilliant, love it.
I mean, I love it. And so for reference, for anyone who hasn't seen behind the scenes footage of other films and stuff, that is what people like Mark Ruffalo and
Would wear it.
Josh Brolin look like on set. They wear those kind of grey suits with the triangles and polygons and stuff on to allow the
computers to do their magic.
Yeah, allow the cameras to pick them up and to allow them to be tracked more easily for motion capture purposes when they're on set. So it's very authentic, and as you say, it fits with this backstory of Beck being this kind of visual effects.
I mean, he's I think he's
person.
he's like a tech guy in this, but in the comics, he's obviously it's literally his backstory is he is a film's special effects guy, so it's proper spot on. So I love it. But we start getting an idea of his plan, kind of thing, to be causing loads of damage, causing casualties, because he wants like the Avengers level threat, so he can become like a global superhero. His team not so convinced, but
we get that like awkward look on people's
that
faces
awkward,
where
like,
they're
side
like,
eye.
we sort of enjoyed doing the whole faking a hero type thing, but I'm not sure about like
we're escalating a bit more.
Yes.
And he also points out that he wants to kill Fury because he's really paranoid and it's really hard to keep leading him around, isn't it?
The other thing I quite like about this, as he's laying out the plan and stuff, is like, what's the next part of the plan? He's one of those great bad guys who, like, he hasn't thought this through at all, because he's going to do this big fake thing, but then if there's a real thing he has to fight, he can't because he's not a superhero.
I mean, I guess he could because he's got Edith, so he does have these weaponized drones.
Maybe.
Because he is smart, remember, and he would probably be able to make the drones into, or like he does in this kind of thing. He'll just have to basically be quicker at it, because obviously he's all going through the planning. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's probably a certain amount of arrogance to it that I suspect he could continue being a quote unquote superhero using all the drones and stuff like that. Obviously, what undoes him will be if they fail or something like that. Which again, it's a very Mysterio thing that his tech will. I mean, he's really super smart. He's very great at it, but things do go wrong.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he's just a normal man. So yeah, and you can see he's getting a bit unhinged with his, when he finds out about the missing projector, and that Peter and MJ know about it. He gets a bit angry with people, and you can see that bit of a slightly maniacal type aspect coming out of him, bit drunk on power with all the drone stuff. But so it raises the threat level in the respect of now the baddie knows that they know.
Yeah.
And then we cut to another awkward scene with Peter kind of explaining things to MJ and undressing, and her doing that whole like, she turns around and then the whole kind of like slight turning around to try and watch type thing.
So, I mean, she doesn't want to turn around in the first place, does she? And then she's like, I suppose I'm meant to turn around, and then try
reluctantly, but then
slip a peek.
Yep. But then, and then Ned walks in, and we get the whole which I'm sure I knew first type moment, which I'm sure has been in. I'm trying to think of another film where that's happened, but it would have, and I can't remember what it is now.
Yeah, I mean,
many films.
It's been in quite a few films of that kind of thing. I'm sure it has been in an MCU film. I just can't remember which one it is.
Yeah, but yeah, either way, like I say, basically anyone who knows is in danger. There's the peril, kind of thing, and
then the CGI version of him jumps out of a window.
Yes. So now we're off to Berlin, where Fury meets Peter from the train.
I love this. This is like Inception.
Yeah. This is Inception
like
stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
Fury, who's not Fury, who's not Fury.
Who's definitely not Fury. Yeah. Takes him to the office. Peter, confesses and catches him up with things, and then it's all a lie.
It's all a lie.
Yes.
And
it sends him.
It starts out that the all a lie bit is everything except Fury was an illusion. So the office was, Hill was, but Fury wasn't an illusion. Because we see the illusion dissolve around them, and Fury is still there. So it's.
I thought he was the illusion. They just didn't dissolve him because it adds to the Peter distress.
Yes. So.
So sorry. I see what you mean. So yes, from Peter's point of view, got you.
And they sell it in
really
that way, and it's beautiful, the way that they do it. And next part of this sequence, I loathe. I loathe this whole...
What, the whole fight through the illusions?
Yeah, fight through the weird...
See, I love it.
Netherworld, mirror dimension,
because it's
quantum realm.
It's because it's very Mysterio. That's it. That's how he does things. So it's very on track for me with how he fights baddies.
I do understand that. I just don't.
You don't like it.
I don't like how it looks. It's just this like 100% CGI confusing stupid thing.
Which hilariously is actually what it is, because he is in a CGI confusion thing.
Yeah. I totally get it. Just I don't like it.
Yeah, and then but like, as you say, part of the kind of illusion stuff. Then he the illusion kind of almost ends, so to speak, and Beck confronts Peter face to face, but then gets rescued, inverted commas, by Fury, which is then when he reveals that. So he gets the information out that he wants him, basically, and finds out that MJ and Ned are the only ones he needs to sort out. And then, surprise, he didn't exist at all. It's all another ruse within a ruse, and then he gets hit by a train.
He gets hit by a train. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get Beck using Edith to send the class to London. I don't know why it's London.
I think he wanted a big. I think part of his because he wants a big event, doesn't he? And so you pick a landmark, in a supervillain thing. Yeah, you pick
I
somewhere.
suppose Berlin doesn't have quite the same thing. It just seems weird to go to Berlin and then go to yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, because all the different things appear in different countries, so I guess you've got to kind of move them around. So it kind of works with the narrative.
But nothing's appeared in Berlin yet, which is the
no Berlin. Yeah,
the
Berlin's
confusion for me. But
yeah,
but London is more cinematic anyway. So
exactly.
I get what they did it movie wise.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You need the landmarks. Yeah. Then old Pete kind of basically wakes up in the Netherlands.
He does.
Yeah. Good luck saying that title.
Broekop Langdijk.
There you go. You're better than me.
Yeah, exactly. Broekop Langdijk. Broekop Langdijk.
We get the hilarity of them being all super friendly and lovely, and everyone like everyone just being really nice. Like, can I borrow your phone? Yeah, sure. Here you go, mate. And just gives him his phone. Love it.
Well, Netherlands is
very
a
friendly.
super friendly place. By all accounts.
Well, it's why I really enjoy it. Why I enjoy the scene.
Me too.
But Happy arrives to kind of pick him up and bless Peter. He's so broken by this point.
He's so broken,
it's really emotional because he shouts at Happy and then he kind of apologizes afterwards. And it's really It's really hard. You can tell how he and Happy proper stitches him up and counsels him. And I love Happy in this film. I really love him in this film. And he kind of gives him that link to Tony, saying that even Tony had his doubts and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's so reassuring.
He's like the godfather of the MCU.
Yeah, and considering what Happy has been to Peter so far, which is essentially like the disapproving uncle who sees him as a pest, and
but
he's
now
only
both lost.
really paying attention to him because Tony's told him to.
Yep.
And there's obviously the reversal in that relationship, or the change in that relationship at the end of Homecoming, where Peter kind of saves his arse.
Yep.
Then this film, Happy has sort of taken on the mentorship.
Yeah, because they're both grieving about Tony.
Yeah.
So this is a way for Happy. This is a link to Tony that Happy has. Yeah, which is really nice. So
and just that care and warmth that he has in that scene of them just if nothing else, just the moment of them both acknowledging that they miss Tony.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like this is the only person that they would admit it to in quite these terms.
In this private moment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then and then like I say, after that, again, awesome kind of scene. We get the, you handle the costume, or like I'll sort the music. And and he goes, and Peter gets the song wrong, but we get obviously the awesome Iron Man Back in Black by AC/DC, and him designing his suit in a very Tony Stark way, even down to the whole, when he builds his fake web shooter on the thing and puts his arm in exactly like Tony did with Repulse. Brilliantly done, really well done.
You take care of the suit, I'll take care of the music.
It's absolutely awesome, and just that callback to the very first moment of the very first film in the MCU. And again, whether or not it was intended as the first film of the multiverse or the last film of phase 3, there is something
wonderful synergy, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was trying to say. It's great. I absolutely love it. So then we are off to our final showdown, really.
Yeah, Act 4. There we go.
London, the school trip getting off at St. Pancras, getting off the Eurostar, and the whole thing with Brad saying,
yeah.
no, this whole thing
Where's
with
Peter?
Peter is really and so Brad has sort of worked out that Peter
That
is
something's
Spider-Man,
dodge.
and
Yeah.
then MJ just turns around and is like, why are you taking pictures of people in bathrooms? And just totally throws everyone off the
Yeah.
scent. And we get the beautiful moment of Mr. Dell.
I'm gonna be a cool teacher right now. You gotta stop doing that, okay? It is weird.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And obviously they then get picked up by one of the bad guys
By
for
Dimitri.
a sightseeing tour.
Oh no, it's not Dimitri. Sorry, ignore that.
No, it's not
yeah,
Dimitri.
Yeah, it's not Dimitri. No, it's the one of Beck's guys. Yeah.
It's the storyteller guy.
The storyteller.
I
That's
think,
it. The script
isn't it?
writer. That's right. Yeah.
And so they hop onto an open top bus for a sightseeing tour of London.
Yeah. Mysterio then drops by Fury and Hill in the Shard. Fury confirming, no Avengers because, well, Sony. But, they weren't in universe. They're not there. And, so Beck is kind of, ready to launch his actual attack on London. But he's, Beck obviously himself is actually on the bridge across the top of Tower Bridge. Wandering back and forth there, being very film directory, I think, because he always, I don't know, again, that's not my area of expertise, but where he's like, check that cape, is that okay? And all that kind of stuff. Micromanaging type thing.
Fun fact, I did not realise that you could walk across that bridge on the top of Tower Bridge.
Wow, really?
Until this film came out.
That's awesome.
Which, like, considering I've been to London many times, and I used to work literally a 5-minute walk from the tower. So, great observation skills.
Well done, you. I mean, this is always a risky thing, isn't it, for us watching this film? Because obviously when they're all like in America or Germany, you can be a bit more forgiving about stuff. But when it's in like one of your towns that you've been in quite a lot, you pick up on things. And I think generally they were pretty good, apart from the annoying bits which will come up in it, which will bug me in a second. But,
okay. But I'm
sure you'll be the same.
Are really good at in this sequence is that all of the places are connected in the right way.
Yeah.
They are all. I know this sounds really stupid, but you'll get what I mean. All of the places are where they say they are.
Yeah.
It's not a sort of they suddenly turn a corner and they're the other side of London in a bit that's pretending to be the tower, for example.
Yeah. Geographically, they get it right, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, essentially the bus basically gets stopped on Tower Bridge with obviously Beck above, and then Happy does calls Fury with his coded message,
which alludes to
shenanigans.
The surfboard.
Yes.
Which I didn't know if you picked up on that, but the surfboard obviously being a reference to him voicing the character that is basically the Silver Surfer in The Incredibles.
Yes.
With
Frozone. Yeah,
I loved. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
and yes, it's a coded message, which
and Peter laying out his plan and Happy knowing about his Peter tingle, which again I love how they take the piss out of it. I really do.
Yes, and just how Peter reacts exactly how a teen would, and it's just, oh, please don't call it that.
Don't call it that.
It's so wrong, and yet as an uncle, if that was a term that had been used at any point, I would forever call it the Peter tingle.
Yep, completely. And I love how because they haven't like dived massively, hilariously into his spider sense in the kind of previous things. You get hints with it, and I like how, because that is his spider sense, as in like when May, right at the back of the start of the film, throws the banana at him and it just hits him. She's like, oh, I thought you had a Peter tingle. But like subconsciously, he never thinks of Aunt May as a threat, so he doesn't react to it. Because it's a proper subconscious thing. So I love it. Like I guess in the next film when they throw bread at Andrew Garfield and he's like, it doesn't work with bread. And stuff like that, But either way, like I say, the Peter tingle, hilarious. And this is where the kind of attack on the bridge starts.
It is, and I love the fact that I learned a new acronym, which is SUE, So
Yeah.
SU stands for Super Uber Elemental,
Yeah, nice.
which was just coined by, I think, one of the visual effects people.
Really?
Because they were like, you've got the elementals, and
And the
then
super Uber.
you've got like a big one that's a combination of all of them. So they called it the Super Uber Elemental, or shortened it to SU for short.
Is it like the teacher saying about, no, you're thinking of Voltron, or something like that? Love it.
Yeah.
I love all the little nerdy things. But yeah, either way, the kids kind of, obviously escape the bus and escape to the street in front of the Tower of London as Mysterio kind of, rocks up to save, inverted commas, kind of London.
Also, great little Shakespeare reference in this bit where they're like running underneath the road of Tower Bridge, running towards the tower. Mr. Dell, I don't know why, but he shouts out something about the cursed hand, which is a quote from Hamlet.
Yes.
From basically about killing your own brother. And yeah, I like that one because I'm a Shakespeare nerd as well.
No, lots of fun things like that. I mean, we get the awesome, because obviously Peter kind of, because he jumps off the thing, kind of thing. We also get the very cool web wings, which is, again, it's a part of the costume. So I love that.
Yeah.
They put that in.
Web wings and sort of parachute-y thing as well.
Yes.
It's not a proper parachute, is it? It's more like a drone chute that
exactly, just to kind of slow him rather than...
he uses the spider wings, web wings.
Which is, it's just really awesome. And he, like I say, gets inside the illusion. Please be real, please be real. Oh, not real, it's not real, it's not real. And just starts, webbing the drones together. And then kind of, Beck, obviously, like, well, what's going on here? He electrifies him, Beck spots him. And then, like, simultaneously, because obviously Fury has smelled bullshit at this point.
Yeah.
And the drone kind of reveals in front of it, and Hill blows it up. Awesome.
And I just love her delivery of the, like, I gotcha.
Boom. Yeah, really good. Happy then shows up to save the kids. And again, I love Happy with the whole...
Who are you? I work with Spider-Man, okay? You gotta get on that jet. You work for Spider-Man? I work with Spider-Man, not for Spider-Man.
Important correction.
Yeah.
And then the jet annoyingly gets blown up. So he...
I love that moment because it sets it up perfectly for like a Happy rescues the kids and takes them to safety. And then it just blows up. And it was like, oh, okay, well... I
think this is the bit that irritated me, how quickly they get into the tower and the crown jewels, like, really easily. For God's sake. But I do like the fact that the tower guards...
It's not that far.
No, I meant the fact that they were able to just get into the vault without anyone stopping them.
Well, they didn't get into the vault. They got into the exhibition.
Yeah, but then they get into the vault with the grills.
But it's not, like, it is a vault, but the vault is open when the public are in there to view.
I think it's just how ridiculously quickly they ran in. But what I did like about it is the fact that they do actually show the guards shooting stuff.
Yes.
As in, that there are other people around. And of course, obviously, it's England. We don't have armed, like, police walking around and stuff like that. They're a special thing. So they wouldn't be straight away. But obviously, those guys would be.
I'm also pretty sure the Queen's Guard, or now the King's Guard, don't patrol at the tower.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think it's only the yeoman warders who are there.
I'm not sure on that, I'll be honest. I hope they did their research, but it could be a thing. I don't know.
This is 100% not the sort of thing that they would have researched.
Okay, fair enough.
So they may be right. But I think they have just used the British military that people would recognise.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe they just use it because it's a very visual
like
thing.
The people in red uniforms with the big tall
with the big hats,
kind of thing. And I may be wrong. It may be
basically
they
answers on a postcard. Answers on a postcard, and
yes, on a postcard, because we don't have a postal address, so we'll never get your responses.
Nope. But and we get the funny ping of Happy throwing the shield and like, how does Cap do this? Love it.
Yes, yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. Really funny. And, the group sharing when they're in peril.
Yeah. All just admitting their own little foibles and then Happy with their, like, I'm in love with his aunt. And everyone just being like...
I thought we were sharing. Yeah. There's the big epic sequence kind of thing with Peter jumping around fighting the drones, getting blown up. And then, again, there's a really cool bit where, before he gets up to Beck, where he basically fashions a shield. And reading some of the trivia, it's almost like he's got a hammer and a shield, like Cap from.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really, really cool. And he does uses his smarts and gets him up there. And then you've got lots of Spider-Man acrobatics. Also, the great thing about Beck being in the kind of like the long bit on Tower Bridge, it is literally like a gauntlet.
Yes.
For a very cool final fight scene type thing.
Yes.
And then
I do love the maneuvering that Peter has to do around the bridge.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you go back to the bit where Beck is talking about using the Edith drones to create a city size attack.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's only focused on Tower Bridge.
Yeah.
Like, it's this city scale attack that's the size of London Bridge. Or not London Bridge, Tower Bridge.
He's got his supervillain playbook, always go for the landmarks.
Yes, but only it just
only the landmarks, exactly.
It seems very small for a city scale attack. But yes.
Yeah. And then he kind of does the whole, like I say, this is a very, what I kind of alluded to in, I guess, the Quentin Beck explanation bit from the comics. It's like Spidey and Daredevil do this to beat him. Like Spidey really focuses on his Spidey sense to know what's real and what's not. Like he closes his eyes and does it properly, kind of thing. And again, Daredevil uses his like radar sense to know what's real and what's not. So we get a very cool thing where he looks like he corners and takes Beck down, but obviously again that's that's an illusion. And then he saves him from the bullet to the head, which is beautifully done. Yeah.
And there's a great callback, I think, in this moment, which may be my multi-layered nerd coming out. But
I love it. Go on.
When they're in Venice, Fury quotes another Shakespeare quote at him: "Heavy hairs, heavy hairs, heavy lies
is it heavy holds the head that holds the crown or something?" Yeah,
heavy lies the head that wears the crown.
Yeah,
which is from I want to say Macbeth.
Yeah.
And then he turns to Peter and says, "Stark told me you wouldn't get that because it's not a Star Wars reference."
Star Wars reference, yes.
And then if you get to this moment, his use of the Spidey senses to get through the gauntlet is very Star Warsy. Is very Luke Skywalker of like using the Force to get to his destination. So
also Samuel L. Jackson being in Star Wars as well makes it extra funny.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the showdown. We think, it's all Beck's been dealt with. He's dead. I think. He gets kind of dies at this point, and MJ finds him on the bridge. They have
there's an important point before this because he's defeated Beck, and then he says to Edith, he says, "Stop everything that's going on," and she says, "Do you want to execute the cancellation protocols?" And he says, yes, execute them all.
Yeah.
Which will be important.
Absolutely. It's very well done. It's very well done. But then, like after all that, we get the kind of reunion on the bridge with MJ and Peter having a really sweet first kiss.
Yes.
And
I like it.
And Happy now covers for Peter with Fury. And again, there's a marked change in tone because obviously, like at the start of the film, he's just as not scared, but nervous about dealing with Fury. But now he's like, he's got "I got your back" kind of thing with Spidey, and he covers for him, which is brilliant.
And there's another in this moment. There's another hint at Fury, the Fury illusion.
Yes,
if you like, because he says like, "Oh, I always had my doubts," and Hill, who's not the sort of character to straight up criticize Fury, turns around and says like, "No, he had zero doubts. He didn't realize anything at all."
Yeah.
And that's very much a wife saying to the husband,
yes.
like, "No, shut up.
No,
you're trying to make yourself sound cleverer than you were." No.
Love it. And then we're at the airport now on the kind of way on those are all back, and you learn
which is Stansted Airport, because Stansted Airport is used for
everything.
every single airport.
And don't
for
they
a film that
don't they turn all the
shoots
cars
in
around
the
so it looks like they're on the
UK?
opposite? Yeah.
Yeah, every film that shoots in the UK that needs an airport shoots
Uses
at
Stansted.
Stansted.
Yeah.
100% guaranteed.
Yeah, I think they just turned all the cars around so it looked like they're driving on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
and you also get a nice little thing with Flash, like, you know, turning up, and obviously his parents aren't there to pick him up because of the show.
Yeah, there's a really sad little moment, and it's just a little soft insight into who Flash is and why he is the way he is.
It's another reason I like the film.
Pathetic.
Yeah, it's another reason why I do like the film, because it's kind of like little things like that, just little attention to detail, little things like that isn't relevant at all. They don't make a big thing of it, and it's right at the end of the film. It's just a nice little, again, building that kind of his supporting cast up, because one of the good things about Spider-Man is the supporting cast. They're used frequently a lot, and because like part of the problem in the comics, like the character almost evolved too much in the respect of, like, when he was, because before Civil War and stuff like that, when he's like working with Stark. So from his point of view, he's got his wife, he's married to MJ, everyone loves him. He's even had his kind of image, I guess, rehabilitated because he's working the Avengers and it's not Spider-Man the Menace and stuff like that. Like, there's even times where Cap calls Jameson out going, "What are you doing? He's great." And Jameson's like, "Yes, Captain America, yes," because it's Cap. And Spider-Man doesn't work when everything's going well for him. And like at that point, there was no, I think all the supporting cast have either moved up or died. And so that's when they did the big reset, which was a really ham-fisted one more day where basically everything goes to pot because of the revealing a secret identity in Civil War. And they literally hit the reset button, as in he makes a deal with the devil basically to save, I think, Iron Man gets shot or something like that. And it's literally the deal is, I will make everyone forget. Which is like, in obviously they kind of referring to the in the next film. I will make everyone forget, but everyone else will forget, and it kind of resets Spider-Man. It literally, they would do the reset. So whereas the hard reset was clunkily done, it actually was a great thing for the character because it makes him fun again. Because it was and it's like a weird way they do this, because obviously, again, Spider-Man in this, he had Tony Stark level tech, he had all this kind of fun stuff, and he gets all this cool stuff, and then at the end of the next one, we get the status quo reset, where he does go to the man with the broke man with no support network, nothing like that. And so it's a really interesting way they did it in this. But I mean, getting ahead of ourselves here, but like in this bit, they're back home. We find out that Ned and Betty broke up in a proper like holiday romance for a teenager thing, which I love, but very very cordial.
Yes, and Ned being sort of like worldly wise about the ways of romance and stuff in a great. I love that little subplot. There's only maybe 3 or 4 beats of it throughout the film, but the way that it starts, the way that it finishes, and Ned's kind of wisdom about the whole thing is just so brilliant. And then Peter gets home and we get this confrontation of Peter with May and Happy, and then we realize that they have very different perceptions about what's going on, and she has basically seen it as just a summer fling.
And he thinks he
is like fully invested.
I love it.
This relationship, and obviously we've heard him, 10
saying he's in love with
minutes earlier saying he loves her, and May's just like, no, it was fun when it lasted.
And again, you get that perfectly awkward, like, I'm gonna go type thing.
That, like, I don't want to be part of this anymore.
I
started something I don't want to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, and then he swings off to meet MJ and take her swing around, which she does not enjoy, and I love it.
She does not enjoy. One of the things I really like about this moment is they really dropped the two of them on a swing. They rigged them up on a harness and dropped them, and so they're sort of. I don't know whether or not they enjoyed it, but
That reaction's pretty
sort
genuine.
of the reaction at the time is. I mean, I feel slightly sorry for Zendaya because obviously Tom Holland is covered in a mask, so
Yep.
you can't see him like freaking out as he gets dropped. But Zendaya
It feels a bit
has
like Die
kind
Hard,
of
dropping him off the balcony early.
yeah. When they drop Alan
Throwing
Rickman,
hands off the
yeah,
yeah.
it's great, and that takes us into the credits as he sort of looks like he's dropped MJ off the back of Grand Central Station.
And and then we get the awesome the return of J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, with the
Who is
Daily
the
Bugle.net.
best J. Jonah Jameson. He is
he's
so perfect.
He's absolutely spot on. Again, if I remember, like I do fondly remember the Sam Raimi ones, and while I have loads of issues with them, the one thing I absolutely love is him. He is perfect for Jameson. Like, you can't beat him. And I like how they kind of always guess, like I say, dailybugle.net. So we kind of update it for a bit more modern, and it's very much a very the way they seated him is very much like a right-wing podcast, like an American. Was it Alex Jones or whatever? That was the kind of vibe you get from it, which is perfect for like Jameson.
Yeah,
and get the exclusive Daily Bugle footage about the American hero Mysterio kind of thing, or the hero Mysterio, and it's them the doctored footage. Or re-edited, sorry, to make it look like it was Spider-Man.
It's doctored. It is doctored because they redub.
Yeah, because it's out of sequence,
Edith,
and it's
saying like,
do you want to kill them all?
There will be lots of casualties, and he's like, yeah, execute them all.
And then the final sting with him revealing Peter Parker, Spider-Man is Peter Parker, amazing. And also it means that they got to end that sequence with "what the," which is the same as the last one with May going "what the," kind of dropping the F-bomb.
Yes, and that takes us into the post-credit scene, and this is one of the things I really like about this is that the director, John Watts, sort of felt a little bit guilty about making people sit through the credits for just the stupid Captain America thing. And
I love it.
We've said on the last few episodes that the post-credit scenes have been quite pointless and annoying. And so I like that there's like a proper payoff in this one, which is obviously that we discover that Fury and Agent Hill have actually been Talos,
husband and Skrull wife,
played by Ben Mendelsohn,
who
and Soren, who's played by Sharon Blynn again, pretending to be him. And like, Talos is sort of saying this.
I love how embarrassed he is.
This has
as
been
a
a
shapeshifter,
bit awkward, and it's been difficult, and I sort of don't really know what I've been doing. And Soren is just very much being the sort of disapproving wife of like, I kind of went along with this because I thought it would be quite easy, but actually there's been a lot of stuff going on, and you really, really need to
come back,
talk to him and tell him to come back. And then obviously we get this shot of Fury, which is brilliantly played because it looks like terrible CGI.
But then you realise it is terrible CGI.
Beach, and you're like, oh man, this is so bad. It's so bad. And then obviously he stands up and we discover he's on a spaceship somewhere.
And this was exciting.
A bunch of scrolls.
This could have meant many things, like watching it. Like it could have been... Like, when I first saw it, I think some people were saying there was like an Alpha Flight, which is like a Canadian superhero thing, space station. But I instantly thought of Sword, which is, in fact, you'll know Sword because you're actually reading comics, I think. Yeah, Astonishing X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sword are the basically alien version of S.H.I.E.L.D. Not alien, but like space version of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And it looked like the Sword space station. In my head, that's what I thought this was. And I think it is actually from Marvel.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really see much of it, do you? It's sort of multiple level.
Because it was
big thing.
Because of the scrolls and the stuff like that. It's literally where my head went straight away. But obviously they don't give you any details. You just see him in a space station, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But that was where I think me and Steve were both on the same page about that. because we're big X-Men nerds, and I'm pretty sure Astonishing was out around that time. So we were instantly like, oh, is that sword? Brilliant.
Yeah.
I think we were actually right, which is awesome. But yeah, that's the Marvels in it. We're way behind that film.
We are. We've got a ways to go.
Ways to go. But yeah, there we go. That's Spider-Man, and yeah, I still stand by it. I'm still happy with it. I really enjoyed it.
I like it. I just don't love it. There are a few bits that do genuinely mean that it's
bits
not
you love
a thumbs
and bits
up.
that knocked it down for you.
Yeah, and as I've said while we were going through it, the first half of the film is brilliant. I absolutely love it. I don't like the way they did the reveal of Beck, and I don't like the sequence in Berlin. And there are parts of the final fight that I'm not a massive fan of.
Yeah.
But it is a really good movie, and I'm not far off a thumbs up. It's just that the stuff I don't like, it's enough to take me off full love for this film.
Yeah.
Having said which, I am going to go back and rewatch it now to pick up on all of the things that I missed. So basically, I am our listeners today. I'm a good proxy. And that's our show for this week. Next week, we have a slightly different episode as we take a deep dive into the setup for the multiverse. We talk about what we knew, what we hoped for, and maybe a little hint, or maybe more than a hint, of what we thought of it so far.
You can follow our show at MarvelingPod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, or email us your thoughts on geeks@marvelingpod.com.
And if you enjoyed the show, we'd love you to tell just one other person about it. That's all, just one. Go on, do it now while you're on your phone anyway.
And that's it. Thanks very much, Ollie.
Thanks very much, Dave.